Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Road to Real Estate Podcast. I'm John, and we have the amazing, the incredible, the spectacular, the fantastic Lauren Kermani.
Hey guys, good morning.
Do us a favor, like, subscribe, give us a follow, hit that notification bell. And Lauren's got an announcement for everybody about our raffle coming up in, just a couple weeks.
We have our Are you summer ready Yeti cooler? We're giving away a Yeti Roadie, a 24 cooler. So follow the link below, sign up so you can win.
Yep, that's all it is, guys. Welcome to the Road to Real Estate Podcast, where Jon and Lauren help you grow your real estate business. Enjoy the show. So today's topic, we are going to do staging a home. This is something I slept on when I first got into it because the time when I started buying homes was during the Great Recession. So, so from the first time I ever looked at buying a house, I was looking at vacant homes. So I was so used to looking at vacant homes to buy for myself. So now that I'm in this industry, I didn't realize the importance of this because I didn't realize there was another option. You know what I mean? No one was staging all these homes when I first started buying for myself. And then I took a class in our brokerage, and it was eye-opening. The price difference between a home that someone just wants to sell as is, I'll call it, versus someone who's willing to put a little bit of money into staging a property and prepping it. And that can vary from just a quick coat of paint and changing some lighting to roof repairs and much more bigger obstacles to tackle, but makes the value of the home increase quite a lot. So we'll just jump right in, and that was my little quick synopsis. What's the first thing you would do if you were getting ready to put a house on the market in terms of staging?
Some people would not, there's kind of this gray area between preparing the home for market and staging. But essentially, what everyone needs to do first is declutter. The number one thing you need to do is basically get rid of half your stuff. I know that sounds a little bit extreme, but when you go to a closet, half of that needs to be gone. The idea is you're moving anyway. So pack it up, get it ready to go, get a storage unit, put it in the basement, do something so that you have the space. If you can eliminate about half of what you live with every day, then your house is going to look bigger, present better, and just be a nicer space.
Yeah, it turns out hoarder home is a little bit harder to sell than one that looks
Well, if you want top dollar, right now in this market, you can sell a hoarder home all day long to some investors. But if you want the price of the market, then you're going to have to clean it up a little bit.
Exactly. It's important to note that when people go through your home, they're trying to figure out who's currently living in that home. And if they get a bad vibe or an off feeling based on when they're walking through your home, they're not going to buy your home. I have these clients that every home we went to, and I don't know why, but everybody in every house that we went to left up all their family photos and everything else. And every house we left, my clients came out like, could you tell she was a single mom? You could see there was no pictures of the dad in any of these photos at all. Like, it's like they built this story in their head, and several incidences from just that, they were like, we're not buying this home because there's no way she can move out on her own in time, and we need to close in this day. And it's very obvious that between the clutter and the photos that she's doing this on her own, there's no way. We can't do it. We're not even going to waste our time trying. And I was like, and I tried to convince them, like, listen, if she signs the contract for this date, it's okay. The contract is binding. We can do this. It doesn't matter that her packing up isn't your problem. If she thinks she can do it, whether she hires help or whatever, but it had an effect on how they mentally took in that property. And it wasn't because they didn't like it. It was a good layout for what they needed, and it was enough to turn them away.
Sometimes your clients can create their own story, right? They put together their own narrative when they walk into a property. And one of the things, like what you're talking about, pictures, photographs on the wall, the super personalized homes, that is great for when you're living there. But living there is no longer your goal. So you're really going to have to separate yourself from the home. And that's an important step. Whether you're trying to stage the home or getting ready to sell, you emotionally have to separate from the house. And so I think that it's a really important step for any seller to do, is to stop thinking of it as their home and to start
Hmm.
thinking of it as, a home for sale, a home.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think the big thing is as a realtor, we want people to picture themselves living in that space. And because they were so caught up in figuring out who lived there and where they were in their life, they were picturing the other people's lives in that home and not themselves in that home. And it took them out of the equation of buying that house because they were picturing this other family, not themselves. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I think that it changed the way they thought about the property.
The other thing that I see sometimes is people will think that people are getting divorced, and
Mm,
they may put one stigma or another on it. They'll say, "Oh, there was one side of the closet is empty and the other side is full. I bet they're
mm.
getting a divorce. Somebody moved out." And when you start to create those narratives, you're distracting them from the home. And
Yeah.
so anything you can do to keep them focused on the home, you're selling a feeling, you're selling an idea.
Hmm.
It's really important because from the moment they drive up or even see the pictures online, they are forming an opinion of your home. And so this is where staging becomes part of the psychology of selling.
Hmm. Oh yeah. And when you're decluttering, it is super important to clean. A messy house. I can't. Another thing that I'm running into a lot of lately is houses that aren't clean before we go in them, and it's just like it changes your feeling, like whether it be the smell in the air of a wet dog, which we dealt with, or um, just dust. Because when we go through, the people I had were very picky. We opened every window in that house. They made sure every house they wanted to make sure it had soft closed drawers. So they opened a drawer and then they wanted to see how it closed, like we because they just upgraded their house with soft closed drawers. They wanted it on their next house, so they were like pulling drawers, like, no, they don't have soft close in this kitchen. It was like
Yeah.
but it was like, if you're going through and we have to check everything. It's nice if it's clean.
Yeah. So, when you talk about decluttering, cleaning, these are kind of prepping for the space, but it's also a part of staging. It's really important. I'm sure that you, whoever you is an expert cleaner, that you're fantastic. And yet, you probably still want to get professionals to come in because you're going to have to do things like clean the blinds, clean the windows, clean the baseboards, do that super deep cleaning that you don't do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Move the furniture or clean behind it, cobwebs. You're going to have to do a deeper cleaning. And honestly, you need to understand that's not going to cost $100. A deep
Yeah, it's going to
cleaning
cost.
is, 3 to 500 for most homes and can go higher depending on your square footage. So be ready for a deep cleaning yourself or paying someone to deep clean it. You're going to clean it as well. When you're decluttering, think about what time of year you're selling. If you're going into the summer market, you can pack up all your winter clothes. You are not going to need them unless you have a trip to uh, somewhere cold. And if you do, just keep out the stuff you're going to pack. You can get rid of half of your clothes. You don't need it all year long. When you think about things for your holiday items, you can put away the holiday items you're not going to use. You can
Hmm.
put away anything that you're not going to use in the next 6 months. Go ahead and pack it away. This can get a little more difficult if you have kids, but you can talk to them, include them, help them make decisions, help them say, hey, we need to get 50% of your stuffed animals out of your room. And that could be tough, but it's not, you might have maybe we're done with this pile. Let's give to Goodwill or let's give to a charity. And then you have a pile, we'll see you later. This is going to go to the
Hmm.
new house. And then you have just keep your most special ones. So
Yeah.
cleaning out those closets, cleaning out your stuff, cleaning out your drawers. We're in the
Yeah.
South. We all have junk drawers down here. I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
I'm have that up north, do you?
That they do. Trust me. Every house I've ever had has had a junk drawer or two.
So,
um, kitchens. If
yeah.
Get your appliances off the counter. If the kitchen looks cluttered and full, it just doesn't feel as clean. And to me, when you walk in, when you have all that stuff on there, it makes the counter space look so small. And people try to envision cooking or throwing a party because kitchens were that's the hangout spot in a home, especially if you have a good bar or peninsula. That's where all the food goes and you do your buffets and everything else. And if you have 15 appliances because you got a juicer and a smoothie maker and an air fryer and a toaster and a toaster oven and all that stacked out on there, it really takes away some space. And yeah, it's efficient for you because you got all your appliances ready to go when you need it. But when you're trying to sell a home, each appliance takes so much away from all the other stuff they should be looking at in your kitchen. So all that stuff should be, let's be honest, when's the last time you used your juicer? It's not trending right now.
Juicers are not trending, but my French press is. No, just yeah,
it is.
I think that's a really
But
important concept, right? We talk about horizontal surfaces. What are the horizontal surfaces? Those need to be cleaned off. That's your kitchen island. That's your countertop space. That is your table. That is your I don't know if you have a console or a foyer table. That is the dresser in your room. All of those horizontal spaces in your bathroom, the counters there, all of those spaces need to be cleaned off. We say maximum you could have 2 items on there. So in your bathroom, that might look like your soap. And for showings, you're going to put your toothbrushes away. Nobody needs to see your toothbrushes. We don't
yeah.
need to know if you have an electric or a manual or, or what you're doing over there. Put things away. This is where, and you've already cleaned out underneath because that was the first step, decluttering, right? So you have room underneath for things like your hair dryer and your brushes and your toothbrushes. Everything should be put away.
And if you have medications, I would get them out of there because people will take them. It's a thing.
Yeah. Thank you,
Just
Matthew
should not.
Perry.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew Perry. He literally put it in a book. Now everyone knows it's a thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. When we look at things that you should definitely not have in your house. So this goes part of our listing presentation, right? We talk about medication, we talk about weapons, and we talk about jewelry. All of those should be out of eyesight. Weapons should be locked away. That includes ornamental things like swords and that kind of thing. There's no reason to have that out for showings. If there's anything that somebody could take or take off the wall, it needs to be and put away. And guns always in a gun safe. If you do not have a gun safe, get it off your property. You do not want to
yeah,
have that available for people
lock
to
it in your
see.
car if you have to.
Hmm. And then jewelry. Jewelry needs to be out of sight. If you have a safe, that's great. If you have it just out of sight, ladies, I do the same thing. I don't know if you ever noticed, I love jewelry. I always have jewelry on. Do not leave it on your dresser. Every night I take off my jewelry. I put it on top of my dresser. I have a little thing for it. That is not how I would show a house though. Anything that's just open and out is available for people to touch and see. Theoretically, they should not be opening your drawers unless they are fixed on, like the kitchen drawers, because there's like in the house. But your dresser, they should not touch, they should not open. All of those drawers should stay closed. So putting it somewhere where it's out of sight would be very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we're going to take a moment to talk about taxidermy.
No.
Uh,
Listen, not everyone can catch the fox and pheasant. If you got them, you gotta
yeah.
have them out. No, I had an uncle that did that. Like he had
Yeah.
I can't remember the type of animal, but like the end table was like a baby deer smelling the arrow that he missed with at the first shot or something. Like he's like, like he's like, ugh. I get it.
I have a family member with a bobcat and a quail, and the bobcat is in action going for the
Ooh,
quail.
nice.
So yeah, that's pretty fancy. Very fancy taxidermy work. It's actually beautiful, but it's not something that will sell a house. And so those are the kind of things that need to be away. Most often we see deer or bucks or something on the wall, like a head of an animal. That's okay. I'm not judging you for having it. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it or you should have it.
Yeah.
I'm saying it doesn't help sell a house.
Yeah.
So if you can remove it without causing problems, definitely. If you have one, that's excusable. If you have 12, that's too many. Go ahead and pack them up. I'm sure you want to take them with you or you want to sell them. Go ahead and do it now.
Yeah, it's important to say with staging, all we're trying to do is maximize the number of people that may be interested in your home. So as things get more niche, whether it be trophy deer or fish taxidermy or guns or toasters and appliances, you're just slowly shrinking your funnel, and that reduces your chances of getting what you want for the property, what the property is worth. Part of that, because we're talking visual appeal, is the paint inside the home. listen, we love that you love really bright orange and dark reds, or even that black room you have. Get that gothic look. But when you're trying to sell the home, we want things as neutral as possible. We're not trying to invoke those strong feelings in a room, and those really bold colors can really eliminate a lot of buyers for you. It changes the feel, the vibe. You ever go into a deep red room, it's like, ooh, it gives you like almost a little bit of aggression. I don't know. So
And that's a good point because I feel like that moody decor is really coming into fashion right now. And there are some times where people can do it really well, but you have to be careful. You're trying to make it so that it's appealing to the largest number of people.
yeah.
And the
I'm not
largest
saying
number
it's
of
bad.
people,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, when you live in a home, if you can pull it off and you got a place for it, it looks awesome. But when you go to sell your home, not everyone wants that vibe. Even as cool as it is, you're gonna eliminate people. Some people don't want to live in a goth house. Turns out.
turns out. No, and so just making the palette neutral. Now we've seen a change, right? The grays and the cold colors, those have gone out at this point. We went white on white for a while, and now we're starting to move to a more creamy white color.
Yeah.
You could have a little bit of warmth in it. Natural elements are really great. What people are doing is you have to see what's trending, and that is what your buyers want to see online. And so when you look at the test of how somebody comes to look at your home, the first test is what do they see online?
Yeah.
If you don't cross that hurdle first, they're not going to come through the door. I mean, maybe their agent will beg you to go to see it, or maybe somebody will convince them to,
Well, it's
but
been
that's
on the
really the
market
first
for 3 months, Lauren. We can get a deal on this one because they didn't paint. But once it's on the market for a little while, people are going to, oh, okay, it's probably because they did this. We can probably get in with a deal. They've been sitting for a little bit. They'll take what we throw at them, you know. So,
it's very interesting. So when you walk into the house, you want to have that neutral palette, that just clean space that looks like it looks like the idea of where they would like to live. Think about when you go to a model home in a new construction community. So they do have some decor, right? It's not
yeah,
completely bland. They do have some decor, but it's very clean. They don't actually
yeah.
have stuff. They have furniture, but they don't have things. You don't see toys on the ground. You don't see they have whatever pillows are on the bed, but they don't have like just pillows everywhere. There's nothing on the floor. And so cleaning up everything that touches the floor, cleaning up everything on a counter, super, super important. Spaces also look bigger. So when
Yeah.
you eliminate half the things in your closet, it looks bigger. Even the coat closet at your front door, you don't wear half of those coats, especially if it's the wrong time of year. Take the coats out that you're not going to wear and only have a few. People go, "Oh wow, look at all this space." It is unconscious and it happens every single
Oh, yeah.
time.
It's like well, if you see an empty closet, you tell yourself, well, no one wants to think that they have more junk than the person beside them. So they look into it and go, oh, they didn't fill this up. I can fit in here too. But if they go in and it's already full and they're like, oh, if they can't, I can't fit either. I remember the first house I bought. I literally was in the garage. I'm like, look how big this garage is. We can put 4 cars in here. This is just my brain was doing the mental math, and I'm generally good at that. I excel at it. But by the time I got 2 cars in there and my tools in there, I was like, oh yeah, there's no way. What was I thinking? This will never fit.
The
Yeah, yeah,
optimism of
yeah. It
that
was like
space,
it's
it
amazing how big it is when there's nothing in it.
and that feeling feels good, right?
Yeah.
Because you have a blank canvas and you start adding the idea and you start filling in the blanks. And so you have to have blank space so you can fill in those blanks. So the other thing that we haven't really touched on, but is also part of that feeling, because we're kind of talking about the feeling of a house right now,
Yeah.
right? We're talking about when you walk in the door, when you do that, that it's really important right now because more than ever, we have so many options for lighting.
Well, yeah. So this is something that I did with my current seller is walked in because he would cool lighting in one room, warm lighting in the next, and I actually talked to the photographer, and the photographer was like, "What you want is 3,700K to do the whole house in one bulb, buy enough to do the whole house," and that's what we did. We matched it through and through. So that way, no matter what room you're in, you had the same vibe, the same feel. And it was good photography. So we have great photos because of it. And it feels right when you walk in. It's very neutral light. And yeah, I'm a big fan of it. It's the only change we had to do because that person was meticulous. It was like, let's just change your lighting and we're good. So,
I mean, so what I would say, I mean, obviously that's a great suggestion. I don't have a wattage suggestion. That's not what I'm going to say. I'm going to say to have everything match.
yeah, no,
Just
I
like you
mean,
were
I get
saying,
it. Yeah.
walking in one room to the next, that it just changes, and so it changes the feeling. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing is that I don't think you can find them very often anymore, but I would avoid compact fluorescent lights. Those are the lights that they take a second to warm up. When you first turn them on, they're super
Mm-hmm.
dim, and then they start to glow full volume after they've been on for a minute or two. It changes the feeling of a house. It's just the oddest thing. It changes the feeling of a house. You come in, you turn on a light, and it's kind of like dull glow,
Yeah, it
and
takes
then
a
it
while.
warms up. It just changes the feeling. So as an agent that's trying to show a house in the best light possible, when I'm with my buyers, I'll go around and turn on all the lights just in case they have those in a house. But I can't tell you the number of people that walk into houses and they go, "Oh, does this feel odd to you? Is this weird?
Dark, yeah.
Is this eerie feeling?" And it's like, "Oh, there's not enough light in this house." And they start to say things, and it has nothing to do with the actual house, and it has everything to do with the lighting. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a very simple fix. You can go to Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, Amazon, and get a bulk of light bulbs. Make them all match, make them all bright. May not be how you want to live in your house forever, but it's a great way to sell a house.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Hate the lights in my garage because it does that every time I turn it on. I'm like, man, it's so dark, I can't see anything. And then 30 minutes later, I'm like, yeah, we're good. Like, I can see everything. This is fine. I don't know what it's complaining about,
Yeah.
and it happens every time I go in there. And like, I really need to switch out the lights in there. Um, Go in with the flow. I mean, everything we're talking about today is about the flow of the home and stuff. Is we got to talk about arranging the furniture the right way. Um, if people can't imagine where they're going to put a TV, it's amazing what you watch. I mean, people stand in a living room. Well, where would you put the TV? I can't figure out where I'd put the TV. So if you have it staged to put things in the optimal position, to put furniture and have a correct flow, one of the things that drives me nuts is a couch facing away from the front door. Like I'm not going to sit with my back to the front door of my home. I can't do it. I hate it. But making things flow so that way it's like, oh, okay, I get it. This is how, yeah, all right. It helps people visualize themselves in that space if you do things correctly and grateful. Because if you set it up wrong, they're gonna be like, this doesn't feel right. So whether we rent furniture or we own some that we bring in ourselves, or they have too much and we take some out of there and put it in a garage or in a moving van, that flow is everything.
Yeah, Jonathan, that's a good point. Most of the time, I have people remove furniture. Most of the time, we want to downsize or make it smaller because we love to have places for people to sit. We love to have stuff. We love to have things. Most of the time, we're saying, "Hey, can we take this chair out?" Or, "Oh, you have a chaise and a couch. Can we just have the couch?" Right? We try to like eliminate because the less, furniture, typically the cleaner it looks. And so that's where you do need to have some experience. You can find some online classes. You can look and see for if there's something on YouTube about staging, or you can bring in a stager, right? There are lots of professional stagers, but most of the time I want to see if I can work with their furniture. That is always the first option before we jump to renting furniture or buying things. We do have stuff as our team, like we do have some things. We've staged some small houses before, but it just works better if you can use their stuff in their space. Because reality is, if they're still living in the house, they're going to be sitting on it, they're going to be living on it, they're going to be doing things, and stuff gets ruined. So if we can use their stuff, it's ideal as long as we can keep that space looking good.
No, yeah, I agree 100%. We've been talking about all the stuff inside the home, but how many times have you pulled up to a house, looked at the front of the home and the yard and stuff, and went, I don't know, and drove away without ever going inside the home? Uh, Lawn care. It's a real simple one. When people pull up and see the front of your house, man, you want to pay the couple of bucks for some mulch or some pine straw, get it mowed, get it edged. It's a big deal. not so much up north, but ever since I moved to the south, edging a lawn is a big deal. Like in Florida, it was a thing you had to do it, or else it just didn't look right. Also, things grow here, so if you don't edge it, eventually will grow over, and your sidewalk will disappear, or your driveway will slowly disappear. Gets pretty
Correct.
small feeling. So yeah, get everything edged, get everything done. Make sure it looks nice, because if they don't like the house before they even walk into it, sometimes they won't. You can have the most beautiful interior in the world, but your dirty house with its dirty windows and unkept yard, unless they're looking for a deal, you know,
Yeah.
it's not
No.
going to happen. But you got to
Well,
sell it.
and it's about the feeling, right? When you drive up, I mean, think about the way a haunted house looks. It has a broken window, it has an overgrown yard, it has a gate that's falling apart. When you think about what a haunted house looks like, the haunted house could be any size or shape. It's more about looking unkept on the outside. So you're automatically creating that same feeling of not not a house you want when you drive up. And you're right, we're in the South. The grass is a status symbol. I know there's some states that don't have grass at all in their yards, but we actually will not give a certificate of occupancy. Did you know this, in the state of Georgia, if the yard has not been installed? Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. There
Uh-huh.
you go.
Yeah. So a yard is really important. It is a status symbol. It needs to be cut. It needs to be edged. Your bushes need to be trimmed. And in fact, this is one of the secret things that, I tell people. The smaller your bushes are, the younger your house looks. When you have lived in a house for a long time, the bushes have grown larger. You trim them. Every time you trim them, you're really just evening them out. You're not cutting them back substantially. Maybe once a year you do, but you're just taking off the top. And so new construction has very small plants.
Mm,
Older established houses have very large plants. And so sometimes when a home looks old or older and we're trying to give it a new look, really trimming the bushes down is
mm.
significant for changing the age of the house.
It's impressive. I would have never thought of it that way. Just one
That's why I'm
another thing
here,
is
Jonathan.
pressure wash your home, people. That's important. You don't understand how dirty your house gets. I mean, every time I pressure wash my driveway, I feel the same way. I'm like, yeah, it's not that bad. Time. Then you start pressure washing, you're like, oh, yeah, it's like way darker than it should have been.
Yeah, like, oh, it
I
wasn't
just
that
wrote my
color.
name.
No,
Every
super
time.
important. And yeah, and a good pressure washing company will have the low pressure that they need to do for your house. The same pressure that you use for your driveway is not the same pressure that you need for your house, especially depending on what type of material your house is made out of. But you need to make sure that they know what they're doing. And they get the eaves, the overhangs, the gutters, that they also do the windows. The windows are so important. Clean windows make such a difference when you're preparing a home for sale. In fact, the screens make a big difference. We talk about that the windows are the eyes of your house. And if you have screens on, it just makes it foggy. It just makes it not clear. So
Hmm.
newer windows have screens integrated. Those are fine. But if you have the older style windows where you have a screen that is
That pulls out.
removable, you need to go ahead and take those out for showings. They just make the windows look a little bit like foggy, and it changes that feeling of the house. And so keep them in the basement. Don't throw them out. Give them to the next owner. That's great. But take them off for showings.
I'm going to throw this in here. We actually recorded this podcast last week, and then we had audio issues, but she made a comment that I wanted to make sure was in this when we re-recorded. If you've got holes in your screens, it's like having runs in your pantyhose. That's what she said last week. And I was like, I want to make sure. So yeah, so your eye gets attracted to that tear. You know what I mean? And then you focus on that instead of everything else. So if you've got tears in your screens and stuff, either get them repaired before the photos if they can't be removed, or remove them and get them in the garage all stacked up, so that way people aren't focusing on those flaws, you know?
Yeah, and it creates a narrative, right? The whole idea is that we're trying to eliminate people creating a story about who you are. We're trying to get them to focus on the house. And so a screen tear will be like, oh, was that a kid? Oh, do they have cats? Oh, what happened here? Oh, they don't take care of their prep. They start creating a story. And so you want to eliminate that narrative as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Um, as you enter the home. So if we were in the yard, and we've already talked about all a bunch of stuff inside, but your entryway is so important. If someone opens the door and that first impression as the door opens can totally change it. So that's the second point where people go, nah.
Yeah. You know what? And even at the door, welcome mat, nice flowers around it. I can't tell you how many times I've bought flowers for that month of the listing and just put them in, little pots on the front. Brand new welcome rug.
Mm-hmm.
You might have the go away or just leave the package and go. Nope, take that away. Put a nice little welcome mat, clean, crisp, new. Has a totally different feel when you walk into the
Yeah.
door.
There's lots of little accessorizing items that we can add into the home that aren't personal. And so instead of having your family photos and all that stuff up, which you've mentioned earlier in this podcast, there's tons of little knickknacks. Everyone loves TJ Maxx to accessorize a home without putting too much of you in it. And not too much. You don't want to clutter it, but generic paintings can go up instead of your family photos. So that way your walls don't feel empty. I don't know. I don't know what to call them because the weirdest stuff at TJ
Tchotchkes.
Maxx.
Tchotchkes.
Tchotchkes.
Well,
That's a good one.
but here, let's put a little caveat here. If you are the seller, we are not telling you to go buy more stuff.
No.
This is more for agents. I mean, it's really funny that you say this, Jonathan, because we just listed a house and I just got done doing this. And right in the hallway, I can see the box is my box of stuff that I take to every house. Um, like you said, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Marshalls,
Lauren's
IKEA.
lemons.
Yeah, so I was going to say Lauren's lemons. So my lemons are here. They actually didn't. I did not leave them in the house, Jonathan. So because there was not a good place for them, and so I did not leave them. So we have a thing. I'm going to tell him, Jonathan. I'm going to tell
Yeah,
him.
it's okay. This is her
Uh,
trick. This is probably why my listing hasn't sold. I need
I
Lauren's
should
lemons in there.
I should
I
give you
got to
my
bring a
lemons.
basket this week.
I have them. You don't have to buy them. I have lemons. I'll give you some. So we have Lauren's Lucky Lemons. There's something about a lemon that makes people feel clean, fresh, like springy, like things are well put together. There's something about lemons. They're yellow, they're bright in a nice white bowl. And so one of my clients actually we their house wasn't selling, and I was like, okay, let me put some more staging stuff in. Let me like get your stuff out. And so we did kind of a revamp and I brought this bowl of lemons and we put them in the center. Within a day, the house sold. And they called him, wow, Lauren, your Lucky Lemons really made a difference. And it was kind of a
Mm-hmm.
joke. And ever since then, we put my Lucky Lemons in every listing that we can. That makes sense. And it helps to sell. So we do some Lucky Lemons in your listing, Jonathan.
Oh, I know. The before I was a realtor, I sold my house up here in Georgia, and that was the thing she brought to my house was a bowl of lemons. So that's how I know about Lauren's Lucky Lemons. I knew about it before I was there, and it's been a joke ever since to me because I think it's hilarious, but it works. So why change it, right?
Actually had a client that had a hat made for me and it said Lauren's Lucky Lemons and it has like lemons on the front. It's really funny.
So that just lets me know I'm not your best client.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of presents you gave me,
I,
Jonathan. No,
boy, I can
you
get you
gave me the
nothing.
present of your friendship. That's the best present
Oh,
of
that's
all.
what it is. I
Yeah.
just forced it upon her. It's way better.
Yeah, that's good. Well, so anyway, so I do have like a box of stuff. I have all of these fake plants because I am not going to go to a house and water plants every day or every week. And I'm not going to put that burden on the seller either. I want them to focus on keeping their house clean. But plants really make a space look fresh and happy, and nice looking ones. Don't, if yours are sketchy and old, get rid of them. But nice plants make such a difference. So go ahead, have some in your basement, in your garage, on your shelf that you have with you. I got some of mine are from IKEA, some of mine are from those home stores. It just depends on where you find them, but nice looking ones I
Mm-hmm.
take with me every time. It really makes a bathroom feel fresh. It really, really helps kind of a dull space to look better. And it replaces that naked look that you might feel sometimes like, oh, we went too far, but you didn't go too far. Keep that plain, clean look and just add in just a couple of small plants here and there, fake ones.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. All right, so not everyone can stage a whole house all by themselves and has all this. Don't get me wrong, lots of people do, and also people may not want to deal with a staging company and moving stuff in and out. So you got a vacant property and you come in and you get all these amazing photographs of it. How do you feel about virtual staging?
I love it. I don't think you feel the same though.
No, I don't. It's getting better, all right, but make sure you have a professional do it that knows what they're doing, because I'm sure I've looked at virtual staging and thoroughly enjoyed it because I didn't know it was virtual. The problem I have is when I look at a photo and the lines don't line up and things are off angle, and I focus on like that's not real, that's not actually sitting in that living room, or that's not actually in the bedroom. And once my brain picks up on that that's not real because things aren't going,
Your
the
brain calls
vanishing points aren't
BS.
the same. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like your brain calls BS. And then you stop focusing on the house and you start focusing on, ooh, what is going on here? What's happening? And then you're trying to solve a problem. You're not looking at it as if it's a house that you
yeah.
could
So I
buy.
need to change my stance. It's not that I'm anti virtual staging. I'm anti bad virtual staging. I feel because I honestly like all I can think about is the times when I'm like, ugh, that's not right. That doesn't fit right. That's clearly at a weird angle because whoever was trying to put it in there didn't do it correctly. But I'm sure I've looked at virtually staged stuff, didn't know it was virtually staged because it was done correctly, and was none the wiser, and went on to go into the house later or on to the next house. So I guess I don't like bad virtual staging because it throws things off. Is that better? I'm getting better, I'm
That
coming
was,
around.
yeah, that was good. Now, I will tell you that I was in an AI class yesterday, and the number of agents that talked about throwing their photos into AI, I was a little concerned about because, yes, AI is a tool. It can virtually stage your property. But when you think about something like ChatGPT, that's a language model, and people were talking about, oh, I put it into here and I put it into there. There's AI that is made for that. And if you don't know how to use it, and if you're not doing it well, and to your point, Jonathan, if it doesn't actually look good, you shouldn't be doing it. There are
Mm-hmm.
affordable options that your photographer might be able to give you, or that you can see online. Just off the top of my head, Brownie Box is one that you can upload a photo, and there are people do it. And I think it's like $25 to $30 an image. It's fairly inexpensive, and it's very professional. It looks great. They do the shadows, they do the lines, they make sure they ask you the dimensions and the size of the room so that they can make sure that it actually would fit in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks very believable. So go to a company that does it. Don't just try to do it yourself, especially if you're not an expert at staging or AI for that matter.
Yep. I've actually been thinking about doing this since last time we recorded this exact same episode, because I do have a property that we did take photos with the house with stuff in it, and it was like I think the photographer did a phenomenal job, but I wasn't hugely impressed with. It was let's say it this way: there was a single guy who owned this home, and he was very meticulous and very clean, and his house shows very well. But you can tell when you look through it that it's owned by a single dude. Very minimalist. There's a bed. There's a couch. And so I kind of want to get photos taken again now that he doesn't live there, and try and change the vibe. Also when we had the photos taken, like he'd already sold the dining room table. He already sold and packed up some stuff that was probably would have made it feel like a home in the photos. You know what I mean? So I feel like they're redoing the photos with a different vibe, and maybe bringing on a virtual stager to make it look like it was done correctly, like for a family instead of a dude. Does that make sense? I mean, it's very clean. I mean, I have no complaints. Really, I don't. But it's like, I kind of want to change up the listing a little bit. And I'm kind of going to if I get really good clean room photos and we virtually stage it, I guarantee it could probably draw new buyers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and not even limiting it to a family, but just opening the style up so that more people can see themselves there, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. But Jonathan, we hadn't talked about that offline, but I think it's a really great idea. I think that that could make a difference because we did have a question of that one space and where would you put this, and you have some pictures where it's in one place than another. That might be confusing to people online. So
Yeah.
that's a great idea. So, you know, you can
That's
see if
why
the
I do this. I
photographer
bare
does
my
it.
soul to our listeners. We can go through this live in front of people. It's just, yeah, It's what it is.
Yeah, no, that's it's a good idea to put some things in. And like I said, there's also third party companies that will do it after the fact. Now, Jonathan already has furniture there, so they won't take it out. But if you do have vacant images, you can still add them later on. And I've had people that have done that. Some of the agents that I coach with, we've added the virtual staging later, and it's been super, super effective. Totally changed the feel of the house. So I think that's a really great idea. Always try to use their stuff if you can, but if you can't, there's options from virtually doing it to renting things. Like you said, there's staging companies. I have different staging companies that I use for like true staging, right? That come in and do things. A lot of times we'll say, okay, we'll pay for the first hour of staging for the person, and then you pay for the rest, right?
Mm.
And so that's something that we've seen in the past, especially if you have a house that maybe has a lot of clutter, or you think you're going to run into problems with the homeowner not being as open to your suggestions. Sometimes having a third party there makes them the bad guy and not you.
Yeah. All right. So, what are the most common staging mistakes that you've run into?
Clutter. An agent will feel like that, oh, I need to bring 12 plants and candles, and oh, let me put an air freshener in. Oh, air freshener. Ugh. Like, yeah,
So
no,
we're very different on this one. Okay, it's good
yeah,
because to
yeah.
me, I think from just, I mean, you've been doing this a lot longer than me, but my experience is the lack of informing your seller that, hey, I know you live here in this space. It's time to put some of the stuff away. So I think they're both on clutter, but I was thinking more in terms of them not cleared enough out versus putting more in. But I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You're
no, I
both
agree.
right.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. I actually clutter is like the biggest thing that you should do. But I guess in my mind I was thinking from staging after you decluttered, right? What you could do wrong about actually staging the stuff. But you're right. I do think that decluttering, if you could only do like one or two of these things, maybe maybe you're not able to do some of the other stuff. Maybe you can't rent a storage unit, and that's okay. You can fill the garage with boxes. You don't have a garage, you could fill the attic with boxes. You don't have an attic, you can fill the basement. I don't know if there's some space that you can fill with the boxes of things. People understand boxes because they know you're moving. That supports the idea that you're on
I
your way out.
honestly think it actually helps sell your home having boxes in it. I know it sounds weird, but from watching my sellers go through houses, when somebody sees, like, they open a garage door and sees that you've already started packing, the impression is, oh, they're already ready to go. They're already in the process versus they haven't even started. If we're going to close, and a lot of closings now happen within 30 days. It's just amazing how fast 30 days goes by. So when they have that in their head that they want to move into a place within a month, seeing that stuff's already getting boxed and organized and stuff leaves a good feeling in their head. Like, oh, they are ready to leave. This is one of those things. Also, I don't know. It gives me the impression like they went out of this house and they're ready to sell. Maybe my offer is going to go through. Like it gives them that impression that you're ready. You're not just on there to see what it's worth. It's not, you know what I mean? So from watching their reaction to seeing boxes, which I don't think I have the same reaction, but it was like, wow, that's what they got from that. Okay, that's cool.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well, and your guys are motivated. They were looking for like a quick turnaround. Um, I think that's fine. I think that people are not opposed to seeing boxes, and I think that you just have to. I think the clutter is more of a deterrent than a box is. So if you can get them to just put it in boxes, even if you have clients that are a little messy,
Boxes
it's
stacked
okay.
nicely.
Box it up, box it up. The other thing that I'm a mom, but I'm also like an advocate for kids. I just in this world with online and all this stuff, I want to keep your kids safe. And so whenever I talk to my sellers, I say take their name off the wall. A lot of kids have their name in block letters somewhere in their room, or they have pictures up, or they have they have just stuff that lets you know who the kid is, or what school they go to, or what sports they're
Yeah.
playing. And so
Clear
I,
off the front of your fridge.
yeah, or the side of your fridge, or
Oh, yeah.
whatever,
The whole
wherever the stuff
fridge.
is. Yeah. Just try to make sure that you are not putting your child's name on the internet, right? I mean, if you have their name across the top of their bed or their whatever, and that picture is going to go online, everyone has access to your child's name and your address. So, be really careful. Protect your family. I know that that may be a tough conversation, especially if you have a kid that doesn't want their room to change before you move. But the reality is, it's going to be changing, and this will
You're
help
doing
them in
it
the
for
process.
them.
Hmm.
It's a conversation that it needs to happen, and your kid may not understand why, but it's not a mistake you want to make and find out the hard way. You know, um,
Yeah,
moving
so
to a lighter
protect your kids.
topic, but a heavier topic in terms of weight. How do you feel about bigger repairs in the home? We did a lot of just furniture and paintings and cleaning, but my house has a 24-year-old roof. It's getting saggy in spots. I'm about to go into market. Roof?
Yeah.
Question mark.
Yeah, so you have to know your seller.
Mm-hmm.
What's their budget? What are they willing to do? What are they contemplating? This is a great place, Jonathan, where we've talked about, can you offer them options of, do you have a vendor that will let them
A
pay
finance,
at
yeah.
closing, right? Is there an option for that? And so, there's options. So you want to talk to them, as we talked about in our seller listing agreement. You have pre-qualified that seller. You've asked them the questions: how old is your water heater? How old is your
Mm-hmm.
HVAC? How often do you have it serviced? How old is your roof? These are questions that you know ahead of time. And so you're prepared when you go in there. You go, hey, Jonathan, you said your roof is 24 years old. And while that's fine for you as the person
Because it's
living
not
in the
leaking.
home,
Yeah.
it's not leaking, it's not broke, I'm not fixing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But this could be a hurdle for the buyer, because as they put down a large amount of money for their down payment, they may or may not be able to immediately do a roof after they move in, assuming something happens. And I have to be honest, insurance companies are
Yeah,
not
that's where
paying
I
for
was going with
roofs.
it. Insurance isn't
Yeah.
going to do it. Well, they might not even approve the loan because they may not be able to get insurance on the home because the roof is too old. It'll limit your buyers big time.
And I've been seeing insurance companies saying, we will insure your house, but not your roof.
Mm.
And that has happened to some of my buyers recently. And it's put them in a position where they say, oh, I wasn't prepared to pay for, a
Yeah,
$20,000
I'm
roof out
already
of pocket.
putting the nowadays $35,000 down on this house at just barely hitting 10% or $445,000. Not a lot of people are going to have another 10 or 15,000 on top of that to do a roof. It's a lot of money. Um, but what we do have is finance options. There, I don't want to call any companies out, but there are tons of companies that will come in and do those types of repairs, and you pay at closing, and so it comes off the price of the home at sale. But let's be honest, if you list a house with a new roof, new siding, new whatever it is to get it on the thing, chances are, now you'd have to do the math, you're increasing the value of your home enough to cover that. So by you putting $15,000 in a new roof, when you put that in your listing that has new roof, new HVAC, new water heater, new, people are going, look at this. These are the expensive things that I don't want to replace within 6 months of moving into this home. It's already done. I don't have to worry about it. It puts a good feeling in them before they even get close to your property, because they know all these things are new, and they're like, in everyone's head when they see new roofs, they're like, that's 25 years with no issues. It's a it gives you that feel good. I don't have to worry about that vibe, and it's a big, because no one wants to buy a house and put a roof on it. HVACs terrify people. No one, especially when you have them come in and they're trying to sell you a $20,000 system for your home, and like, you don't need a $20,000 system, but um, yeah, there's always upselling, and the prices are terrifying on all those things, and it's money that most people don't have laying around.
And so what you're doing is you're giving them the confidence when they come in that there's not an immediate repair that they're going to have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes people have to be convinced of these things. You have to give them the options, and really let them know, what is the return on this. And that is a more involved listing presentation. You have to have
Mm-hmm.
planned out, like, hey, if you can say new roof, if you can say new HVAC, what does that change monetarily? And so sometimes when we look at these things, when I look at repair, so we've moved from just staging what's existing, and we've moved into making, repairing what's there. Sometimes I'm recommending a lighting change, like the actual chandelier should be changed, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the fixtures need to be worked out, right? lighting is one of the easiest things for them to change out typically.
Oh yeah.
And it changes the feel. Like how many times have you walked into that house built in 1985 with a two-story foyer and the staircase right by the door, and you have a leaded glass window and a brass chandelier right there? You might not be able to get rid of both of them, but if you could change that brass chandelier to something more updated, you've just changed the whole look of the entry. And we
Oh
talked
yeah.
about how important that was. And so that may be a somewhere between $200 to $500, um, depending on the size of the house, the size of the chandelier. It could be a little more with a higher price point. But what it does is it changes the whole feel of the house. And so you as the agent has to be able to walk in and not only see the house for what it is, but see the house for the potential.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're looking at these comps, you have to say, okay, are we better, worse, the same? Like, where do we fall in these comps? And what is typical for this area? Because, Jonathan, you coming from Florida to Georgia, there are things that we have that are typical here that I'm sure are not typical. Like, you guys love tile. We don't love tile in Georgia. You can find your whole house with tile in Florida, and that's a positive. In Georgia, that's a deterrent
Well, you know why?
because you're wet.
Yeah, we're very wet, and we don't have basements because we don't have a lot of ground before you're underwater. So there's no
Yeah.
basement, so the water can seep through, and it can ruin a lot of different flooring and stuff. Especially if you get through hurricane season and you get a couple big ones back to back. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Um,
Whereas we're all about hardwood here,
yeah.
right? Like hardwood is the thing that looks good. So when you walk in, you just got to be able to see, like, maybe it's changing out doorknobs and hinges. Maybe it's just as simple as, $20 to change the hardware on the cabinet. I don't
Yeah.
know, but when you walk in the
If
door,
you're,
you have to be prepared to offer some of these suggestions if they're going to make a monetary difference to the seller.
yeah. Now, there's monetary differences. There are smaller repairs that needs to be taken care of that, we all have that stuck drawer that we're so used to giving a little extra oomph to get open, or that door that doesn't quite close correctly, doesn't quite latch, or even your entryway door that you got to lean into or lift up on the handle that we've learned to work with because we've lived there for 5 years and we know how to open that door or what we got to do this just right. But when someone else comes into your home and they're not used to putting a little extra shoulder into opening the front entryway, it's a deterrent because if you just learn to live with these things, they haven't been coping with them for all this time. So to them, it's new, it's a shock. So that kitchen cabinet door that's got the loose hinge, or the roller doesn't quite work, or folding closet doors. Everyone's fought a folding closet door. These things are cheap to fix, and it's amazing how much it changes your impression of the home. So those I don't see as monetary things so much as let's fix all the little slightly damaged stuff that you learn to live with over the last however many years you've been in that property. It's a
And
lot
it might be a
cheaper.
handyman for somebody, right?
Yeah.
I think about banisters, like you have stairs and your banister is a little bit loose. That's something that people will
Yeah, everyone that
definitely
walks through your house
notice.
is going to put their hand on it and wiggle
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, they're gonna go dee 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 dee, and and everyone who wiggles it is gonna get a little looser every time. So you wanna work that out. If your deck needs anything, decks are really important. People, you need to be safe if they're going out on your deck and looking at
Oh,
things. If
we
your
looked at a
doors.
house. I don't know if you
Mhm.
remember. Sorry to cut you off. Decks. Okay, Georgia has a thing where they did not use any
We didn't have
permitting
deck
or anything
code
that
until like
there was no deck
2000.
code.
Like it didn't exist.
Me and another buyer, a friend of mine, were looking at a house with Lauren, and it was like multi-tiered deck off the back of this house.
Is it the one with the
And
pool? Is it the one I'm thinking
it
about?
wasn't one with a pool. I can't remember even what town we were in, but I remember we went out to the deck and we were standing on it, and it dropped about 4 inches. And we went inside and we're like, nope, let's go. That's gonna kill somebody.
Yeah,
It was a real steep yard, and it was like, oh,
yeah,
that's not. Nope.
not good. Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, that is how we got deck code in Georgia. Somebody's deck fell off with humans on it. And so it
Lots of
was,
them. Actually,
yeah.
my buyers were at a church picnic, and the deck fell off with them on it right here in Georgia, and they got hurt, went to the hospital, but it wasn't just them, it was them and 30 other people all went to the hospital. It's a big thing in Georgia. I can't imagine not having debt codes. This is something I learned when I moved here. it blows my mind how terrible decks are built around here. So if your house you're looking at has a deck on it, or you have a deck, it might be worth having someone actually do it correctly and look at it, because they're very dangerous. Because I don't know if you guys, I don't know where people are listening to us from, but Georgia's very, very hilly and mountainous, especially in this area. So your deck could be 30 feet off the ground, and they've held it up with a 2x4. It's
Yeah. Well, and just to give people some confidence, we do have deck code now, but if your house was built, prior to 2000, you may or may not have
doesn't that date
strict deck
scare
code.
everybody? 1,000? That is way too late for deck codes. Most of the
Well,
houses.
yeah. And the other thing that I'll tell you, when you're going to look at a house, if a contractor has not done the upgrades or if they have not done significant renovations, you can't expect a house to be up to current code. So this may be something where you can explain to your sellers, hey, your deck is significantly out of code. Obviously, you're not penalized for that. However, your buyer is going to expect that it has some safety features, like things like lag bolts, cross bracing, ledger boards, flashing. If your deck does not have this, which is pretty common if you were, we'll say 1990 or earlier, then you need to tell them that they need some of those things, because a handyman can come in and install that very inexpensively. But
Mm-hmm.
once a buyer comes in, they're going to say licensed contractor for decking, or they're going to
Mm-hmm.
negotiate a whole new deck. That's way more expensive than just
Mm-hmm.
adding some of the things that
And
you
you
need to
better
add in.
believe every inspector on the planet is going to look at your deck. For all those things. So get it fixed before you're on the market if it seems financially feasible. If your deck is really solid, I'm not going to put myself in legal trouble here telling you to or not to, but it's definitely something to look at. It's a big deal and it's dangerous.
And it'll come up in every inspection. That's a
Yeah.
good point, Jonathan. And so there's some things that don't come up. I mean, the life of your appliances, if they're older, that'll come up. If you obviously have any active problems, but making sure that you have a termite bond, that you have some kind of like animal wildlife bond if you need it. If you're in an area that has a lot of wildlife, you just need to make sure that you're making the house, just eliminating the speed bumps, the roadblocks, the hurdles that people have to jump over to put themselves in your house. And it just makes negotiating so much easier, because when they walk in to a house that looks like it is well taken care of, no deferred maintenance, it is clean and ready to go, negotiations are smoother. And what does
Yeah.
that look like? When your negotiations are smoother, you look like a better agent. Your client has a better experience, and it's because you have prepared them for the market. So when you think about staging, you can go as simple as decluttering and you can go as high as renovating. But it is your job as an agent to prepare your clients to go on the market and get
Mm-hmm.
the most money possible, whatever that means.
Yep. And on top of that, just so you know, like the cleaner and the more up to date everything is in your home. I'm not saying obviously every seller is going to be a little bit different, the less room you give your buyers to negotiate with. If you go in and you have an older roof and your porch isn't up to date and your appliance is a little older and all that stuff, and you go, well, we did our CMAs and we're at this price, the inspection report's going to come back and they're going to come back with you another number. And they may do that anyways, even if everything is perfect. Their agent's trying to do the best they can for their buyer. But the more ground you give them to stand on because things aren't put in order correctly, the more work you have to do at that negotiating table, trying to prove that, hey, no, this house is worth that, even though this roof is this old and this is done and this needs replaced and that needs. But if that stuff's all done before you hit the market, you just look that much better. Like, it also gives the buyer confidence. They're less likely to bow out when their inspection report comes in and goes, wow, everything was ready to go. No surprises. This is what we want to see, So I know those expensive things may fall under more maintenance than staging, but it goes a long way to all this stuff. To me, as stuff that should be done before you hit the market, or at least discuss with your seller, because your seller may say no and you're stuck selling a house with those things. It's okay. Just it should be brought up and explained to them that this could benefit them as the seller. Like, hey, this, I know it's going to cost us 15 to do a roof, but we might get 20 grand on top of what we're looking at now because because this roof is new, and having that in there, it's also going to open it up to more buyers and stuff. So there is a monetary value to doing these things, and as long as the cost doesn't outweigh the benefit, it's worth doing. I mean, there are certain things that could be wrong with the home that are just going to make your home investor only. You know what I mean? It really knocks out a huge chunk of the market, you know?
Investor only, yeah, limit it just lowers your price when you can only sell to an investor.
Yep. Someone's looking to knock it down and put something else there, or do a quick flip, or, cash off or something. Well, I think we covered everything. Is there something else we want to add?
You just said with the cash offer only, that's important because the bigger of the pool you can make for people buying houses. I think that we're kind of at a high for cash buyers right now in Atlanta. I think we're at like 25%, if I'm remembering correctly. But in reality, a lot of people need a loan. So like making sure that you're widening the pool. Okay, make sure that conventional can buy a house. Okay, make sure FHA can buy the house. Okay, make sure VA can buy the house.
That's
So things
important,
like
yeah.
that, wood rot, rust, anything that's a safety issue, those are the kind of things that you can actually help your seller to widen the pool of buyers. And it just brings more people in and you'll be able to sell the house
That's
easier.
important to say because certain homes won't be approved for FHA loans and certain won't be done through VA. They both have their own requirements, what must be met for them to qualify for those loans. So it doesn't matter. Like people think VA loans, like as veteran, like, okay, but they're going to get a specific inspector that does for VA loans to make sure it meets those requirements. So it's not just their funding. They have separate inspections for those things where it has
Appraisers,
to meet
separate
certain.
appraisers. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it doesn't have, and some of the stuff is a little bit weird for, especially for VA loans, like, oh, it doesn't have that. Okay, it fails. Like it's a perfectly livable home. It does everything, but it didn't have this one thing, and it's done. So there's certain criteria to meet for each one of those, and they're not necessarily monetary, but just weird
Yeah.
stipulations.
We had these beautiful stone stairs once going up into a backyard, just really beautiful, not hot, like the ground on either side was only like about 2 feet or 3 feet up, but beautiful stone stairs going from like the tiered yard, the top to the bottom part, beautifully done, landscaped, really nice. And VA made us put a handrail on them. Like, because that was required. You had to have a graspable handrail, and they made us add a handrail. And it was the buyers added the handrail, and then
Removed them as soon as they were done.
yeah, removed it as soon as they were done. They're like, what's the minimum we can do to pass this appraisal so we can get through? And once that was done, they no longer had to do it, but to get the loan, they had to have a certain level. So those kind of things happen. So being smart about that, being savvy, which it'll be another topic we'll talk about on another day, is financing. We're going to get one of our loan officers in here to talk about financing
I like
for
that.
you guys. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, everyone have a good one. We'll see you next week. I know what we're talking about next week. We already discussed it, you and I. Do you want to tell them?
I don't remember.
Me neither. That's why I have to look at our text messages.
Yeah, I don't remember.
We did talk about it. We sent an outline and everything. This is where we fall apart on the podcast. Oh,
Yeah,
we have so many text messages.
hold on. I feel like that showing homes?
Yeah.
Showing
I
homes.
think
How
so.
to
Yeah.
show, like, yeah, understanding the buyer's perspective and try showing homes in a way that you can sell them faster. Anyone can open a door, but showing homes so that you
we've
can
done
create
the
the
seller
best
side.
experience.
This is us going to the buyer side and helping out the buyer side. We had a whole conversation about this, guys. I don't know why we both forgot it for a second, but yeah, we're doing showing homes.
We've already written the outline.
Especially as new agents, you're probably most likely going to deal with more buyers than sellers. So this is a big one. Next week should be I'm excited about next week.
Yeah, it'll be a good one.
All righty, everybody. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.